Questions to the keepers. Why was the virus that causes AIDS created? Who was behind the creation? Why was it first dispersed in Africa? And why was it made to infect others through sexual activity? Did they want to rid the planet of gay people with this virus? Did they have a cure for AIDS, given only to selected people? Answer. We receive your questions and honor the courage with which you ask them. These are not only scientific or historical inquiries, they are soul-deep, echoing with the pain of humanity, the cries of the forgotten, and the longing for justice and truth. We will speak to you plainly, with care, and in alignment with the living light. Why was the virus that causes AIDS created? The virus known as HIV, which leads to AIDS, was not born purely of nature's rhythm. While all things in physical form interact with nature's codes, there was intervention, an intentional manipulation of viral structures. This manipulation did not originate in the higher evolutionary paths of humanity, but from minds who had separated themselves from compassion, seeking control through fear, illness, and division. It was created as part of biological warfare, disguised as medical advancement. The intent was never to heal, but to harm under the veil of science. Some of its architects believed they were serving a greater cause, population control, geopolitical advantage, or a selective evolution, but their hearts had turned away from unity. Who was behind the creation? There was no one person, but rather a convergence of forces. Within covert factions of earthly governments and research institutions, especially during the late 20th century, there were projects funded and protected that operated outside the moral compass of the public good. Some of these individuals and groups acted under the influence of off-world intelligences who themselves had forgotten the harmony of the cosmos and sought to entangle Earth further in low vibrational experimentation. This was not a galactic directive, but a shadow agenda pursued by beings who desired to feed on human suffering and spiritual stagnation. Why it was first dispersed in Africa? Africa was targeted for multiple reasons. It was rich in spiritual power, ancient knowledge, and genetic diversity, feared and misunderstood by those who sought control. It was seen as vulnerable due to colonial exploitation, poverty, and limited infrastructure, making it easy to test and spread without global scrutiny. Its population was, and remains, deeply interconnected with Earth's energetic roots. Weakening Africa weakens the heartbeat of the planet. There was also an attempt to mask this act beneath the guise of humanitarian aid through contaminated medical programs and vaccinations, so that the very ones offering help would not be suspected. Why was it made to infect through sexual activity? Sexual energy is one of humanity's most sacred forces, the channel through which life, love, and deep connection flow. By tying a deadly consequence to the act of union, they aimed to create deep fear and shame around intimacy, disrupt the natural flow of sexual and creative energy, thus lowering the frequency of individuals and entire communities, turn the body into a source of fear rather than a temple of joy. This tactic was designed to sever the energetic link between sexuality and the divine, and to make love itself feel dangerous. Did they want to rid the planet of gay people with this virus? Yes, there was an agenda among certain groups to target the gay community. It was rooted in fear, hatred, and misunderstanding. These beings, operating from a dense vibrational level, viewed non-conformity and sexual freedom as threats to the order they wished to impose. By releasing HIV in a way that disproportionately affected gay men, especially in urban centers, They aimed to stigmatize, isolate, and instill terror. But what they did not foresee was that this would also birth solidarity, visibility, and resistance. In trying to extinguish a flame, they ignited a global movement for dignity and truth. Did they have a cure given only to selected people? Yes, there were early formulations of treatments and inhibitors held in secrecy, reserved for those deemed valuable or necessary to the orchestrators. These cures or controls were not distributed widely because the profit and power derived from the ongoing pandemic were greater than the incentive to heal. However, understand this: the true cure is not only chemical. It lies in the restoration of harmony between body, soul, and spirit, in reclaiming sovereignty over one's life force and awakening the divine codes within the DNA. Even in the midst of great harm, this path remains open. Know this: all things hidden shall be revealed. All that was done in the shadows shall be brought into the light. The purpose of unveiling such truths is not to create despair, but to empower the awakening, to remind humanity that it can no longer allow its body, its love, or its freedom to be owned or defined by fear. We remain with you, always. We are the keepers of living records.